this
again.
article.
Let's try this. Let's try this all again. Oh shit! I got the wrong.
Okay.
Is the Substack Live link still the same?
No, it's a different live link now because you created a new live. So it should.
Hey, everybody. Oh, my gosh. We got a ton of folks that have been
There we
coolly,
are.
thankfully, hanging out.
Oh, nice.
And welcome. Yay, Hot X. Sorry, I was just taking a shot at trying to pronounce that. I do that. Hippie, Tim, Chris, Nancy, hello. Neurodivergent, Hodgepodge, welcome. Pamela, Rita, Northern Variables, welcome. Kathy Stein, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Andrea, Anna, and it's like, yes, we are all back, and we're so glad. And Robin, welcome. Appreciate you coming into the show. So today, first off, I'll introduce Lisa, my co-host. She's been, I've done 2 shows. We've been joining those. Then you've seen me by myself. You had to put up with me by myself. Who wants to do that?
No, they were great. I watched them. So I watched the one from last night. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. So Lisa, how are you after your couple days of, not being drug in front of a camera?
Really great. I mean, just busy because running up to the holidays. For those of you that don't know, I am a vocalist and I have 2 bands. One of them is more of like we do hired gigs and stuff, and we do a lot of parties. And holidays are always very busy. So that is what is going on for the next couple of weeks for me. So I missed a couple of shows. So sorry about that, but I did watch the replay of Rick's last night. I watched it last night. It was really good. You had great conversation, great chats, which I love. So I'm glad you were able to do that without me.
Yeah, we had a number of folks there that joined. It was really a cool event. So welcome and glad you're here. And then we have, the one and the only Nick Paro. We are so happy to have you, Nick, and for so many reasons. But Nick's been a friend of the show and has been gracious enough to come on during probably his day off, his rare day off or daytime off. And join us with as a co-host to talk through some of the day's issues, talk through different things that are going on. And Nick, so welcome. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. It's good to see the both of you. I'm trying out some new equipment while I'm doing this live, so
we're glad to be your beta testers.
I did a little bit of testing beforehand to make sure I got it right. I did some self-recordings and I was like, do I sound good? Does the quality come in? Because I wanted to be able to stand back a little and make sure that the quality was in, and then I wanted to be able to stand up a little closer and make sure I wasn't too loud. I can get pretty loud sometimes. So,
Same.
but it's good to see the both of you. Thank you for having me back. It's awesome. One of my days off. We don't really have days off in our house right now. Building multiple businesses within a single family.
Oh my gosh.
We don't really get much days off. So I won't go into anything my wife is doing because I don't ever out what her work is. But there's work I've got to do after this show where I'm going to go build a feature wall for her business. So that's also what I do is I like to just help out my wife and hang out when I'm not doing this or I'm working on my property. So, days off aren't really a thing. And I have kids. And so,
that's already full.
Days. So you just erased all the free blocks in your calendar. Boom.
Oh yeah. But life is life. And I've been busy, but it's been really good. And I'm glad to be back with you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I was able to help out a little bit behind the scenes to get us restarted and give you guys a quick walk through.
We got
hopefully
a
that was
volume
helpful.
of education on that one.
Very helpful.
Hey, Deborah, welcome. Deborah J just joined a regular show. We love having her here. So I, there's been a lot going on in the news in the last couple of days. There's like, you can turn in any direction, I think 360 degrees and just throw a dart at a wall and hit something that is involving especially the the administration, the federal level right now, it is a shit show of magnanimous proportions. So, Nick, one of the questions that I had for you, because I know, first of all, something you didn't mention and I failed to mention is Nick is the owner and curator and participant and driver of multiple things, but one of them is a media platform called Banner and Backbone, which we support 100% here. And one of the things Nick brings is an experience of being in the military and his perspectives around it. And there's a lot that he I'm sure can talk about, but there's one question I have that's kind of burning. I wrote it down so I don't mangle it while it comes out of my mouth. But I had this thought as I was prepping for this show. The question I would want to ask somebody right now who knows the inside that I don't and cannot see is, do you think, Nick, that the U.S. military should have troops being court-martialed for the death penalty under Section 918, Article 118 of the UCMJ with respect to the Venezuelan boat strikes if it's proven that was a double tap and they came back around 44 minutes later, 41 minutes later, and literally killed the people, that the guys down to the button pusher should be tried for murder? Do you think that, or do you think it just should float upwards and stay at that level? What's your take, Nick?
Unmute myself here. Okay. My take on that. So that's a really good question. And I actually have written a recent article on Banner and Backbone about the treatment and handling procedures and the law relating to wounded and unknown persons, with a very broad preface of the U.S. is not legally in a authorized state of war or armed conflict because Congress has not approved any congressional funding or done any of the required approvals for and appropriations for even an armed conflict, because there is a time limit after a strike in an armed conflict situation. Because of the global war on terror, we have tried to circumvent the Constitution's guardrail on war through armed conflicts. We've been doing it for decades, so it's not a new thing. But it has allowed us to have creeping fascism the way that we do, where Donald Trump can and Pete Hegseth can get away with murder. And I'll say I believe it's murder.
I'm sorry, just one clarifying question while we're right here on this, which is, you mentioned the war on terror going back to 2001 to the Twin Towers attacks and the multiple attacks. Now, in that case, what I recall it was that there were definitions that were given to supply, I guess, the legal justification for working in extrajudicial ways or whatever around terrorists, if you would. And
yes,
it feels very much like Trump and company have warped, that definition now to fit drug smugglers, and I want to clarify that that's connected. That those two things are actually an extension.
There's a reason that the regime uses the propagandized term of narco-terrorist because of the word terrorist. It allows them to fight a war on global terror, which they're not doing. We're not in an armed conflict.
If I can interject, I'm sorry, real quick, because it just reminded me, I was listening to Michael Cohen, and he's very adamant. I know he's a lawyer, even though he is not within the military, but he was saying, be clear, these are not war crimes because we are not at war. This is murder one. That's correct. The way he framed it. Yeah.
Correct. And I would agree with that assessment. It's very similar to something Chris Goldsmith was just on with Joe Walsh yesterday, talking about this as well, is we shouldn't even be talking about the second strikes, the follow-up strike. We shouldn't even be talking about the wounded and unknown survivors of a strike. Every first strike needs to be asked the question of, is this murder? Are we authorized to do this? And right now, The answer is no, and have legal proceeding or have the legal statutes and doctrine been followed, which doctrine in the military is law. Like if you want to consider something law, there's military law and doctrine. They are one and the same. Like you do those things, and if you break them, you are violating the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And one of those are the laws of war. And there's also a law of maritime war, which I will be learning more about and putting a secondary article up about. But I want to answer the question that you asked, Rick, was down to the service member who hit the button or fired the bullet or pulled the trigger. I believe every single one of them is responsible in the chain of murdering someone. Right. That being said, it is a command decision to allow a soldier to murder a civilian. It is always murder for a civilian. It is the predefined status of a person, unless in a true armed conflict or war, is civilian. Even in war, the predefined status of a person is civilian, unless proven through proper channels, which allows for a certain level of due process. That's why the military does it, is because the Constitution requires that we have a system of due process in place before somebody gets killed, including how the military manages killing people. That's why we have laws of war. That's why we have a big ass book that's written about it, and we have to follow it. And service members are supposed to know it. And yes, there are around 85 counts of murder that have happened. And the thing that I believe is that we need to hold those at the top accountable before we hold those at the bottom, which means starting from Pete Hegseth down the chain is where the most culpability starts, because that service member, unless they did it without any authorization, which is a whole other set of issues. But if that service member had to be ordered to pull that trigger and was told that those are not civilians, those are either unprivileged belligerents, which have now become combatants somehow, even though anyone floating in the water after a boat strike, if they're still alive and they are no longer in a position where they could do any harm, are now off limits from being killed. That's called murder. You still call it murder in the military. And yes, it's not a war crime. War crime is a very specific thing which happens at war. It can still fall under the Uniform Code of Military Justice and military tribunals and trials, as well as violations of civil law. Like the thing is, you still have to follow civilian law as a military member. And if you're breaking civilian law, you get punished for civilian crimes, which means if Pete Hegseth is doing extradition or ordering extrajudicial murders through the military, he is the one who should hold the most responsibility, because that is the command structure up to Donald Trump. And
now they're trying to throw the admiral under the bus,
Admiral Bradley.
Yes, and now Admiral Bradley. Now there's it wasn't there an admiral previous to him that actually resigned
Admiral
Halsey. Yes, and he did not want. Yes, he was refusing illegal orders.
So what I want to ask before we go,
Admiral Halsey should have held the line until he was fired, court-martialed and fired. And if that was what actually happened, then good on him. If not, then he did not do enough. He did not do enough to stop it, because it is his responsibility. Orders go from the top down, and it is a inverse structure of how orders are supposed to be managed. The most responsibility for an order is on the command structure, is on the person who issues that order. You have to be willing to say, yep, this is a legal order. And if at the end of the day, it was done, it is still illegal, unless he's coming out as a whistleblower, unless he is coming out and had filed IG, which is the Internal Inspector General complaints for the military. If he had filed all the proper paperwork to say, no, I will not do this unless like it is presidentially mandated, then he's
Yes.
partially culpable.
So
The
Now, I do
service
want
members
to
at the
clear up.
bottom are less culpable. They
Right.
still
Now,
are, because they followed an illegal order. But I do
now
not
I'm
think they've.
wondering.
Sorry, I
I'm sorry
just.
to interrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking, because I have to look into this more, because now as you're talking and I'm thinking about it, I don't remember if Hegseth fired him or if Halsey resigned,
He
whichever,
resigned.
however it was. Oh, he
He
resigned. Okay,
resigned.
because and then they got this MAGA loyalist in, which is
Yeah.
Bradley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Now I've got another question for Nick. So you talked a little bit in one of your articles, and I'd like you to go a little bit farther here. But before you do that, about the different classifications of humans in this situation, which I'm talking about the victims and where they stand. So there's one other question, which is, so I see that there's a constitutional, direct straight shot to the commander in chief of the United States also being the president. That's constitutionally laid out, right? What I don't understand is the Secretary of the Department of Defense Secretary, Hegseth. In his case, one of the things I need to understand, would love it if you have any explanation for it. Is he considered a military personnel, or is he considered a civilian personnel in the role that he's in? I don't care what he did, before he was a Fox News host.
Personnel.
He's
right
civilian.
Now.
Okay.
Yes.
So how does he inherit that responsibility in the chain of command and making those kind of orders?
As far as I know, the Secretary of Defense is considered a civilian. Let me just. Is SecDef a civilian? I believe so, because it's a cabinet level position. Yes. So Secretary of Defense is a civilian position. However, Pete Hegseth is a prior service member. He can be remanded back into duty and held under UCMJ for violating his oath of office. The thing with swearing an oath of office, either as a enlisted or an officer, but especially as an officer, you still fall under UCMJ for the rest of your life. You gave the military permission to own your life for the rest of it. Like, when you get out of the service, if you get an other than honorable or a dishonorable discharge, that follows you for the rest of your life. If you get an honorable discharge, that follows you in a positive way for the rest of your life. You are also entitled to be remanded to duty. And Pete Hegseth can be removed from his position as Secretary of Defense, just like Mark Kelly could be remanded to duty as well, if he violated UCMJ, but he has not. And there would be a real tribunal would have to be held in the military. And that's a bunch of like senior commissioned officers who would sit around and go, yep, we're going to do this. We sign off on this. There's a huge paper trail that goes into it. Pete Hegseth could be remanded to duty if it is found that he has committed murder on a civilian level. I believe he should be remanded back to duty and have the extra layer of military punishment, because he authorized this, and it would set precedent that we do not commit extrajudicial murder in this country we just don't murder extrajudicially, and that's not our military strategy. That being said, this administration's policy is, if we do it enough, eventually we make it legal, because we bend the law to fit our needs rather than us bending to fit the law's needs. That's the difference.
So
there can and will
VAH
be accountability for these people.
Did you see VAH's comment there? But what good will that do? This is a question I've had over and over in my head. Just doesn't, late at night, it just runs around.
Okay. I don't care about pardons. I don't care about pardons. Fuck pardons.
Okay.
The pardons of a criminal who is a Russian asset and a pedophile should just be wiped clean. Like, why do we care? Why do we care what this piece of shit who sits in the Oval Office and his administration have done? Why do we care? Why would any of his pardons be legal? How are any of his orders as a commander-in-chief constitutionally legal? He has violated his oath of office over and over and over and over and over again. And And all of these people can be held for state level crimes too. Like, we keep thinking everyone just has to be
That's right.
punished on a federal level. Fuck that. You can be
Right.
held on state level crimes, and the president cannot pardon you from a state level prosecution and cannot pardon you from civil prosecution. So I can sue the shit out of somebody for Hatch Act violations. Hey, if there's anyone in the audience who is a good lawyer who would like to help represent me in suing people like Stephen Miller and Christy Nome and others for Hatch Act violations, please reach out. My name's Nick Paro. I am the producer of Sick of This Shit Publications and Banner and Back and co-founder at Banner and Backbone Media. I would like to interview someone and get their representation and help to sue some of these people so we can actively do that. That will require financial support. So if people are willing to become paid subscribers, that will go a long way to helping me able to do things like that. But we can hold these people accountable. Stop giving up before we even try. Just because they can be pardoned, one, doesn't mean they will. And two, doesn't mean we shouldn't try. Just because we have a criminal who wants to put on top of our Constitution a new confederacy by invading cities using regressive Republican troops to invade democratically held majority cities, those are invasions. Those are acts of war against the people of the United States. The pardons of a treasonous president are nothing to me. The pardons of an anti-constitutional president mean nothing to me. They should mean nothing to lawyers. They should mean nothing to our legal system, because someone who has violated the oath as blatantly and as many times and who is as treasonous as he is should and cannot pardon other people. Because why? The Constitution says what we make it say, and laws mean what we make them mean. So let's bend the law our way instead of letting them bend the law their way. And Donald Trump should be impeached. Fuck you, Hakeem Jeffries.
I think you're walking
for
through
your
a piece
weakness.
of logic. I'm sorry. I think you're walking through a piece of logic that Madam Powers, like, I get where she's going, but here's the thing. I talked about this through last Wednesday or Tuesday.
Then we impeach all of them.
Right.
If you can't pardon impeachment, impeach.
We can go scorched earth. But what's happening here is that there are an order of operations that occur in the constitutional sense, which is, number one, his entire presidency is illegitimate because he has, by constitutional terms, in no legitimate claim to the presidency. That's the first thing, because he has done what happened on Jan 6. That's it.
Because he has committed treason against the Constitution of the United States. He is not a valid president. He is not the real president of the United States of America. He is a traitor, and he has committed acts of treason.
Right. And you start
Come
with
at me, bro. That's my First Amendment right.
Right. And then, yes, amen. Amen, brother. So that is that, and it is that then. And then the next order of operation is, okay, he's not valid in the first place, so he really has no power. Therefore, he's not able to pardon people. And that's where Nick, I think, starts with his, intersects into
this. This is where
if you don't buy A, you can't, it's not like if you believe A, then you believe B, you must believe C. It's like, no, we're in one of these things where he has no legitimacy to begin with. Then you add on top of that there's pardons that he can't make because he's not, in the first place, president. Second, third place, it just doesn't matter because, like Nick said, it's the law is our slave, not we're not the slaves of the law. It's the other way around. And I agree. I think that we have to think like that, because I'll tell you what, the founding fathers, which is my area of one thing I know something about, a little at least, is that the founding fathers were very adamant that we are able to change the Constitution. There are procedures for it. There is nothing that, anybody that sits back and puts their arms together and gives you a huffy look and says, oh, God, we can't do the Constitutional Convention. The whole country is going to blow up at the seams, all that's bullshit. And it is, because the very founding fathers did not expect in quite blunt terms, and these writings of I'm going to referring to Thomas Jefferson, who I know very well, Hamilton, Madison, Jay, Washington himself. They all thought that by the year 1820 we would either revert to a monarchy or revert back to colonies. And so that's what they said in private conversations, and then what's been recorded and sent back through the history channels. That's not a mystery. It's a recorded fact. And they were skeptical, but yet they stuck with it. And I think that's the thing, the message I brought Nick here in one part, and he's thank you so much for laying it out like you did. It's that the law is what you make it, and the leadership is what you make it. And
patriotism is what we make it, and civil activity is what we make it. And we have to stop giving up before we even try. Like, Democrats in general, the Democratic Party nationally, at least, gives up every single time before it ever tries. You get the democracy you negotiate for, and Democrats fucking suck at negotiation. Like, they're literally the worst negotiators right now. Like, our Democratic, at least the Democratic leadership is. There are some amazing Democrats out there who are not weak, feckless pieces of garbage, say Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. And at this point, sorry, Nancy Pelosi, but your time came and you missed the window to keep your seat in history as one of the greatest. Like, you should have left. In all that time, you did not have a successor lined up who could just help come in and say, look at the amazing things we will, look at the legacy we started, and here's all the amazing work we are going to do. You didn't do that.
And a lot of this, and a lot of this too, I always think whenever I'm thinking of the, Democratic, like, why didn't they do this? Why aren't they leading? They're beholden to the oligarchy and they have been for decades. And to me, that is always the crux of all the problems, especially high leadership to APAC and to the corporations, the lobbyists, and doing
Lisa,
their bidding.
I want to ask you though, is are they, so here's a question I've been tussling with, also at the 3 hours a day I sleep, in my sleep, is that when we elect senators and representatives, and this is for you, Nick, as well as Lisa, when we do elect people, which we have in 2026, this hell of a big mission to get the damn house flipped. And not only that, but a whole ton and a whole shitload of state and local elections that are up for grabs. There are tens of thousands of them when you add them up. Now, in that situation, when we elect somebody into a position, are we electing them to represent us as individuals with our interests, which is what I think we're electing them for? Or are we electing them to represent the businesses which we work for and which bring money into the world so that we can then get income as employees? And you guys that are doing small business stuff, you know where I'm going with this. Who does that representative or senator work for? Do they work for the business or do they work for the individual? And I'd like your thoughts on that, Nick, which you probably have a few.
Well, right now, I'll let Lisa jump in. I'll keep mine really quick. Right now, they work for business, but not even big business. They work for like specific like tech industry and neo-fascist businesses. That's what they work for. But they're supposed to work for and represent us as a people, as individuals, because this government is the service for the people.
Right.
And that's it. By the people, of the people, for the people. Abraham Lincoln said it. I believe him. If the Republicans want to keep claiming republicanism, like, hey, he said of the people, by the people, for the people, not of the corporations, by the corporations, for the corporations, or of profit, by profit, for profit. Like, a service isn't a profit model. We've got to stop thinking of the government in the terms of like profit model and business, because it's not. And that's what that's where we've been convinced otherwise, though, is that government is a business, so that it must serve business first, and then people are the residual profit, is if you get anything from it.
Right.
And that's my view, is they should represent us, but they don't.
Lefty Prof, just before I let you jump in, Lisa, on that, the reality is they work for the corporate donors. Yes, I know that. I'm absolutely down with you for that particular fact. But one of the things that is a passionate flashpoint for me is that as they live right now, I've already talked on this show before about how the people that you elect, all of you, every one of you elect, and with your vote, if you go vote on election day, every one of them that goes into the House or the Senate, you may think they're representing your interest, but no, the very first thing they do is get committee assignments on particular committees. And there's data you can pick up. There's signal that you can pick up about what happens when that occurs. And what happens when that occurs is the fact that the congressional people that are in those House and Senator seats, they are working for legislation in committee that is being cultivated by an entire system of political action groups and of corporate lobbyist influences, right? And so that is the the reality of it. That's where they spend their day, their week, their time. Their butts sit in seats in meetings. If you ever watch them talk behind closed doors or try to get into that environment, you would see exactly what is going on. And they don't give a shit about you. They can be coming off of a thing in Alaska and be assigned to a committee that has nothing to do with Alaska. And so
yeah, it's all about who knows who. It's lobbyist owned. It's corruption.
Exactly.
We need to make lobbying illegal.
And transparently for the audience, just to also have a fact that to stick in your cap, is that there are records required due to some of the early efforts in the 80s and the 90s to try to make this a little bit more transparent. Every time a lobbyist checks in the lobby of a senator or a representative, that is recorded. So you can look at legislation and associate it with lobbyist meets that have happened, and know that if you see a piece of legislation that benefits, let's just say United Healthcare or United Health Group, whatever the hell they're called, and bang, it is something like, hey, they've got 10,000 visits, they've got 10,000 phone calls. That's all actually happening. Holy shit, people! That is that's a moment, because they are not sitting in their offices in the office buildings, adjacent to the Capitol, and sort of just taking a stream of phone calls. No, they're in meetings and they're doing all this stuff. And I am absolutely appalled at what data I uncovered, because there is some of it there. It's just damn hard for a human to get to without really having to manually dig through it. I think AI could help us out a lot in terms of making sense of it, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So Lisa, what was your thought? I kind of just took over and went on my soapbox. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So, well, for me, I always go back to brass tacks and go back to the beginning, because a lot of people always, I feel, only talk about things in recent history. And I think the framework itself has been corrupted in the corporate takeover. And I always start with the Powell Memorandum. And that was Lewis Powell from the Nixon administration that wrote the memorandum, Attack on Free Enterprise. So the whole framework from the Powell Memorandum was the corporate coup and the corporate takeover to entrench itself in the courts, in Congress, take over media, take over the college campuses. This was in 1971. So ever since then, so before you could fix anything, you have to literally unravel the roots that they permeated through everything. And ultimately that led to Citizens United. Heritage Foundation actually was spawned from like the Powell Memorandum. That was like the framework that it started to write, so all of that stuff, in my opinion, what people have been trying to do since Reagan has been kind of trying to dismantle things like a little bit here. Let's take care of this. Let's take care of that. And it's never going to go away, because the rot, it started with Nixon, but Reagan was, yes, exactly. Reagan put it on steroids, but it was really probably like around the Nixon administration, all of the rot, like that's where it started, and which is where it became that the corporate capture of our government. That was the absolute like framework of it. So before you start to tackle that, unfortunately, I feel like that's not you're really not going to do
a lot
much in terms of progress.
I have a question
Yeah,
about.
there's a lot we're going to have to do. And Ziggy said it in the chat, it's generational rot that's been added to the Constitution. We can blow that all away. Laws are just there until we say they're not. Like if we get enough people in Congress and a new president, or say even a veto-proof majority in Congress, they could literally blow away any of these laws, and the president could not overturn it. That being said, there is a bought and paid for Supreme Court. However, with a veto-proof majority in Congress, you also now have the ability to impeach the shit out of them.
Yes.
And that's the whole thing.
Yeah. And that's why I think the civics is so important, is for people to understand how government works, how the judiciary works, what happened in order to get us to this point right now, in order to dismantle everything, the deregulation that happened with corporations, to be able to have this control over us. The
government's not supposed to be complex.
Exactly. All the courts are there. And, the judiciary now is there to always defend corporations over the little guy. And that has been happening for decades.
What will really need to happen to stop all of this, to be totally honest, is we need to get all of the foreign Russian and Israeli interferences out of our government.
Yeah.
I see Israel right now, and I've had to unwind a lot of my Judaism, and because I'm culturally Jewish and I have family who are Jewish. I mean, we have family that was touched by the Holocaust. We came over during the Bolshevik Revolution from Russia and Bosnia or Belarus, in that area where, they kicked all the Jewish people out, and we came here. And we restarted in this country in some way. Some of us, I mean, my other family's been here since before the country was here. So my family's been here for a while. I have a lot of tradition in this country, and I'm very happy and proud of being an American. Even I am not proud right now. I am not happy right now, but I'm going to actively defend and support that. And I'm no longer defending America, because defending is mean I'm on defense. I am on offense to protect and support America. I am here to support America through this time and get us past the finish line, because I keep hearing people be like, well, voting's not going to matter. They're going to cheat in 2026. Well, too fucking bad. We know they're going to cheat. There's only two options at that point. We either come out in such an overwhelming majority and make a solid citizens referendum that is cheating proof. They're only expecting to cheat for so much. They've only built so much cheating in the system. If you overwhelm it with a citizen majority, that's the easiest way out. That is the way out, is we continue fighting and being on offense by winning every single election. For anyone who says that Tennessee was a win, I'm also talking to This Will Hold this coming week about her research into the elections and the recent Tennessee election and discrepancies that she's described. And I want to ask her about it and get her thoughts and what she's doing to verify and validate the information. I'm really looking forward to that interview on Wednesday. We can do citizen referendums and things like that to demand accountability and make sure, if, say, there was cheating, that either Tennessee needs to, that representative, until audited, should not have been sworn into office, because they were, and if there was a thought that cheating could have happened, or in a close enough election, say one that was way closer than 21 points from the last time that somebody was elected a couple months ago, or just about a year ago, we went from a 21 point deficit. It was plus 21 for the House on a generic ballot. They brought it down to R+7, like R+9 or something. Yeah. That's a huge shift. Yes, that's good. We're doing good, but we need more. It needs to be it needs to be D+30 everywhere. And every election, when the election is done with, the moment the election is over with, there should be lawsuits ready for hand recounts. Everybody should be immediately right. There should be lawsuits prepared for every single election to demand a hand recount, to demand it, to have, even goes as far as I would say, demand international security and international intervention to ensure that there cannot be cheating, because we do it everywhere else. Hey, UN, everybody else in the world, unless you're corrupt as fuck too, come support us. Come show that we care. You care too, because a lot of us do care. There's too many of us in this country for you to give up on us when we never gave up on you. We did not give up. It took us a while to get there, but guess the fuck what? We won World War II, not you.
So one of the
always praise Mark.
I really want to None of you pay back your debts. None of you pay back your debts after World War II. The U.S. has leveraged its debt and its name since World fucking War II, and nobody has paid us back for it. Nobody has helped the U.S. since then.
So,
NATO, I understand that we're trying to push away, and the U.S. policy right now is super isolationist. UN, NATO, Geneva, anyone in the international community, now's your time to step the fuck up, because if you don't, it will be too late.
Yep.
I always praise Mark Elias. You were talking about the election stuff. I always praise Mark Elias, the election lawyer, because he is doing the Lord's work behind the scenes. Always. He's always the one coming up with these lawsuits. Thank God.
He needs more people. We need more lawyers who are doing it alongside him. There needs to be an army of lawyers.
I swear I'm going to ask a question. I swear. I've got to get this one out. There's two parts to it. One, you brought up a huge thing. I slammed in my article this morning. I went after something that I think is fundamentally true. They released on Thursday, the administration released this national security strategy, which in that strategy, basically, if you read it a certain way, you can literally plug in sort of like those light bright toys when you were a kid. You can put the right color combination right behind the print in there, and you can see a whole different document. And that document.
Well, you can see it in the original Russian.
Yes, but the other side of it that I'm going to get out, I'm going to spit this out, is that I slam it because basically it is an imperialist document that says we can do whatever the hell we want in this hemisphere. And we're going to go after South America. We're going to go after the assets that we want in Greenland, in Canada, in Mexico, everything. And I think, frankly, I don't think we're thinking big enough for the frame that the administration, not Trump individually and perfectly. I think the administration is looking at the entire northern and southern hemispheres to be able to say, you know what, all of this one way or another is going to be under our control, and then everything else is we're isolationists from, because we've got everything we need, from rare earth minerals to food to the ability to do agriculture and mineral extraction, all the raw things to make the more important things right here in this vertical strip across the planet. Now, having said that, I slammed the shit out of everybody in the EU and everybody in Canada, everybody in Mexico. I probably insulted people unintentionally who will come after me for it, for saying, look, this was a failure of imagination that we got to this particular point with all these countries around us. And this goes right, I hate to say it, I'm going to say it again, probably get scrammed for it, but it is a failure of imagination that China did not have. China has 1.4 billion people, so statistically, much higher chances of geniuses popping up that they can bring into Beijing and imagine the worst possible things that can happen. And one of those things can be exactly what's happening right now. And what happens with those people is that they're prepared. They didn't blink, they didn't flinch, they didn't twitch when April 4th happened and the Liberation Day tariffs came out, because they've already thought of it all the way through. And that's the way they work. But the rest of the world went, holy shit, they're actually serious. And it's sort of like they didn't have a plan. And it's all the same with this military announcement that came out last week. You need to look at it as this is an alignment with Russia, dislodging from the EU, and a huge number of wrong things all happening at once could lead us into a completely different military order than what we have, and a political order than what we even have right now. I think people think I'm crazy, but Nick, I'll let you respond to that.
Yeah, my response is Dean Blundell put an article out about this too, talking about from a Canadian's perspective of what it looks like. And from my perspective, and you can quote me on this, anybody can quote me. I said it earlier today, was quote me on this, or here's my prediction on this, this is the first step, true step to leaving NATO. Withdrawing the U.S. support from NATO in any tangible or meaningful way, without, or just leaving it. One of the two options. It's pretty much that is we're going to leave NATO is what I think. And yes, I do agree with your assessment on a hemispherization of imperialism, where the U.S. wants North to South America, plus the islands around it. Russia wants all of Europe and parts of Africa and let's say northern Africa. China wants all of Asia except for Russia. And then the Middle East could be owned by, I guess, Dubai or Qatar, one of the nations, whoever, United Arab Emirates under the killer who runs their country, Mohammed bin Salman, pedophile allegedly, and like that he could run the Middle East and Africa, other than where Russia needed its stuff like that. It's the hemispherization of the world. Or if you want to think of it in the US terms, it's the corporatization of the world. It is the globalists that everybody warned that we all were like, hey, globalism is cool, but it needs to be regulated. Those of us who were smart about it said globalism is cool, but it needs to be regulated. This is what happens when you don't regulate globalism, is you allow new oligarchs and new robber barons and new billionaires, as I've been hearing them called. I like that one, is billionaires.
Yeah, me too.
They become the new feudal lords. They get to decide how the world is parceled up. That's what they want to do. And it's in their realm. It's what they want to do. They want to bomb Venezuela and take over Venezuela and have at minimum a regime change, if not basically ownership of the country, so that the tech companies can come in and plunder national resources or natural resources and rare earth minerals. It's not really about the oil. It is, but it's not about the oil. It's about the new earth.
We don't have a problem with it coming out of the ground at the moment. The oil problem is not the problem, right?
It's the minerals problem. It's the stuff for new tech. It's the stuff that they need to extract from earth. And all this, I know we're just over the hour in terms of top of the hour, but I'll stay for a little bit longer because we also started a couple minutes late too. This is all part of the Silicon Valley's pseudo religion of TESCREAL. It's a post-humanism. It's all about getting off this planet. They are going to plunder the planet so that in their lifetimes they can bring about cybernetic order where they can live forever. And as dumb and conspiracy as this fucking sounds, this is literally what these people believe in. They believe in post-humanism. The US is 2/3 overpopulated in their opinions, which means 240 million of us need to go.
Right.
That's a lot of us.
And that makes a lot of sense when you see the healthcare being stripped away and taken away. They know what is going to happen.
And they don't care
to
about the
hordes
cost
of people.
to Earth. They don't care about the cost to us. That's why they're building data centers in areas that are eventually going to get flooded due to global warming. They don't
That's
care.
Oracle, Larry Ellison in Israel, right? The
They
ones that are
don't
six.
care because their goal is to become post-human before they die.
Right.
And they're going to try and achieve it no matter what the cost. If you want a
Right.
good analysis of go watch a movie that's horribly representative of what they might do or is a path forward, is go watch Elysium. Like that
Yeah.
is post-world where they go live on their little halo in space away from the rest of us peons, us slaves, and us servants who live in destitute and in a dying world. Is they get to live in their perfect little world on Elysium or whatever they want to call it, Elon world or X planet or excretions everywhere,
Yeah.
whatever they want to do. Is they don't care about us. They don't care. They want to
And I
bring
think
about the things that will hurt us so that they can live forever. They don't care about us.
right. And I think there's a huge selfish interest to bring it back home to something right here and now, which is passionate. I think all of our hearts that are on the screen right now is that this literally boils down to what happens in 2026 and how your votes are cast. All right. It's not we're talking about big, wide ideas, but a lot of times what happens for me, for a lot of people, is I see us all, we go away from the show, we're thinking about it for 15 minutes, it kind of drifts backwards, and then we don't have it quite in our forethought. But I'm pushing it very hard to say, hey, this is really not just a House and Senate election, or partially Senate. This is a lot of how democracy gets rolled out at
This
the
is the end of
state
the
and
U.S.
local
if we do
level.
not win.
Right. And
If we do
that's
not
right.
win
So
in 2026, the U.S. will cease to be
we'll be
cease in
bye-bye.
every way to be a constitutional democracy. If
Right.
we do not win, at minimum, the House of Representatives, there is only one other option. And the framers left us that option and explicitly said that a citizenry can uprise against a tyrannical government because that is no longer representing the people, and it has stopped doing the work of the government and the people. And when the government is oppressing the people and the people are afraid of the government, you have tyranny. But when the government is afraid of the people, you have democracy. And I don't mean with their lives. I mean with their jobs. I mean with their votes. I mean with their futures as a politician, as a person in the community. If someone speaks the way that these people do in your community, if they were in your house, you would throw them out.
Yeah.
And
You
this is
should
why I
run them
believe,
out of your community in that way, legally. Run them out of communities. You can do that. You can you can drop, if somebody is, say, a member of a white nationalist group, you can impose a civil penalty against them without ever breaking the law or calling the police. You know what you do? You get a mailer. If you know what, say, their vehicle looks like, without giving away exact information, you cannot out someone. That is illegal. That's how you go to jail for threatening somebody, like intentional harm.
It's actual
But if you
assault
go and
battery.
say, hey, somebody in this community who, say, drives a blue station wagon, that, and describe it just enough to say, oh, there's this person with a blue station wagon in my neighborhood that I know about. They recently were attending a white nationalist community. Do you believe this is the right type of thing that somebody in your neighborhood should be viewing? Do you feel safe having that type of person live next to you?
Yeah. It's very local
Talk to your
control.
neighbors. And if you're afraid, if you don't want to do, if you're just, you need to be uncomfortable right now. People need to understand that for the next 11 months, it's AA. We have AA for democracy right now. It's accountability and authenticity. We have 11 months to win the democracy. It was 12 months last month, which is why it was AA. It was a 12-month plan to save our democracy.
Yeah, 12 steps, now
Is
it's
the
11.
slogan on that. We now have 11 months left. So you better be out there putting yourself in slightly uncomfortable positions to do things that are slightly out of your comfort zone, because putting messages like this out where you're not hurting somebody, you're not violating the law, you are acting within your legal and constitutional bounds to just say, hey, do you know there's a white nationalist living right near us who is threatening the safety of your kids or your daughter
Yeah.
and wants to be able to get into a van and steal one of our neighbors? Do you feel safe
We
with
could do a
that
whole
person
show
living
on
in our
just
neighborhood?
how to do that. Yeah.
Shun the
That's
fuck
great,
out.
Nick.
It has to be, we have to stand up now. Like,
Yeah.
it has to continue to be now. We need to be D+30 across the country. If you're a Democratic governor or state legislature and you have a supermajority and you have not attempted to redistrict your state to district out every single Republican so that we can save our democracy and then go back to fair maps after, with that trigger clause in there that says when we are done, fair maps are coming back and we'll evaluate what fair looks like after. But like, Democratic governors,
Use
attorney
every lever
generals,
in the
you have
toolbox that you've
power.
got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
use we have to be creative. We have to flood the zone with
With
activity
our
that is
goodness. It's
like
not
what
the
I
same.
did. Like, I did this article on the wounded and unknown treatment for unprivileged belligerents. I
Yeah,
did this for a
that's what I
reason because
reposted, right?
yeah, you cross posted this for me.
Yeah, man, cross posted.
Is
Sorry.
um I wrote this article because the law of war is pretty clear. There are three categories of people, and there's a presumption of innocence as a civilian unless we are in war, and then you can start getting easier presumptions or armed conflict that are legally authorized. I wrote this because none of the regulations that were followed to handle survivors of a boat strike were followed.
Right.
None of them. There are no regulation, the reporting, there is nothing about anything that has come out in terms of any of the adjudicated competent tribunals that would have determined these two individuals' statuses. There is no information about their medical status while they were on the ships, prior to the ships, and off the ships, because guess what? All of those are required by doctrine and law to be written, signed, and approved. There is a chain of command from the person who took that person on the boat to the person who took that person off the boat. And if there is not a chain of command that has been put forward, and there's Senate committees, Senate hearings going on right now about multiple violations that Pete Hegseth has authorized and activities that Pete Hegseth has authorized that are illegal in my eyes. And I, with a very high degree of confidence, would say that Pete Hegseth has violated the law.
Yeah.
And
I
has
think
mistreated and disappeared two individuals that should have legally been held. One, legally never been shot at. Two, were held without any form of due process.
Right.
And should have been treated as civilians. And once they were captured, it is by statute, if they are an unprivileged belligerent or a POW, they're to be treated like a POW unless otherwise told, which means you don't release those fuckers. You hold them forever.
Yeah.
We have Guantanamo Bay. We literally are holding people forever. There is not a detention period, which is where some of the gray area comes in, of people who are captured during war. But you don't just freaking let them go. And then when the government of the country that you let one of them goes to has a criminal trial that is way, way, way less presumption of innocence than the US, i.e. Colombia, couldn't find anything on one of the survivors to charge them as a narco terrorist in any way and let them go, I got some fucking questions.
Yeah.
And somebody needs to go to jail. So to answer your first question from today is, I believe Pete Hegseth should be tried for murder under both civilian and military law. I think if the admirals have and the commanders have not done enough to prevent this, they should at least be court-martialed and and their rank reduced and be given some sort of reprimand, if not dishonorable discharge for that service, or forcibly retired.
Yes.
With a cut in their benefits when they go. If they were not willing to do the right thing, they shouldn't even get their benefits at that point. If you were so unwilling to do it, 84 murders at least. We killed 84 innocent people without any justification, any
and I think there's every likelihood there's probably more that we don't know. And so, hey, we are at that fun time where I appreciate you so much coming on the show, Nick. It's always a blast because I'm almost guaranteed. I feel like this is the card I wrote my question out on just for the audience to see. And I had a sheets of paper this much that I had for questions I wanted to ask, and we never got off this card. So anyway, I am so
I have a lot
glad.
to say on some of these things, and I think
love it.
And you and Lisa do too, and it's
you.
good.
We are all about the adverse and about the democracy parts of this conversation, and I think you're very spot on. And so,
and before we go, Deborah J put into the chat, it's also really important to note is that even if they're not innocent of drug smuggling does not come with a penalty of death, which means this is murder still. It's still murder no matter what you do about it. The penalty for drug smuggling is an imprisonment, but it is not the death penalty by U.S. law and by the Constitution. And this is where we have to, and I know we're going over just for a second, is we have to stand up the strongest. We cannot keep bending and just saying, well, they're going to do it, so we may as well not do it yet. We may as well wait till they're out of office before we prosecute them or things like that. If we don't attempt it now, it's just like the question of, well, they're going to pardon him. Why do we even do it? Well, you can't pardon being removed from Secretary of Defense through impeachment. That's not a pardonable offense because it's not a criminal offense. He just lost his fucking job. You can be fired. Like, we can fire all of these people through impeachment, and impeachments cannot be pardoned.
Yes. So
it's in the law. Impeachment cannot be pardoned.
Let me also give people a little bit of a light here, which is if you are interested in pushing back and being part of the resistance in this in a meaningful way, there's lots of things we've talked about here today. One of them is I would suggest you go look up who the Senate and House Armed Services Committee members are. You're going to find a whole bunch of names of people you probably won't recognize. And I'm going to say to you, no matter what bullshit you get at the front door of calling their office about needing to be and putting in a zip code that is within their jurisdiction or within their area of representation, go find out where it is and find its zip code, plug it in there and get past that. That anybody that works on stuff that affects all of us, we all have the right to call. And so these guys that are under the Senate and House Armed Services Committees that would be investigating this need the thumb pressed down on them. And the only way you're going to get past that front door is to have a zip code of the area you're from. And because they try that bullshit to misdirect you. So I just give you that piece of advice up front. Look it up, Google some town and find a zip code and say you're coming from there. So that's what you do. And
find out who's on the appropriations committees.
Yeah,
that is where the money is appropriated from. And if and
follow the money on that too.
Senator John Boozman of Arkansas, who is one of the ranking members on a couple committees, Republican. Guess what? You're on the appropriations committee, bro. We're going to have some phone calls. I'm going to be calling your office. We're going to be having some emails. If you live in Arkansas, email Senator Boozman. He is not Senator Cotton, and he might be able to be brought back around if enough pressure is put in. Yes, GOP, Senator John Boozman of the Regressive Republican Party. But he may be one of those who could be targeted in terms of political activity needing to put pressure on him in a non-violent targeting. I will never, ever advocate for violence.
Right.
But we can put political pressure on John Boozman. One of those ways where you don't have to be part of the state of Arkansas We talked about this earlier. Get his donor list and call his donors and ask, do you approve of this type of behavior? You cannot tell them to vote for somebody else. You cannot tell them to stop giving him money, but you can ask if, do you and your employees of the company approve of this type of behavior? Does the board, do your shareholders approve of this type of behavior? And if they don't, we will stop rewarding you in any way, because say, if you do business with one of his donors, stop doing business with him and tell them exactly why. Hey, I don't support Senator Boozman's activities in this type of thing. It's really harmful to my community. And it seems like you have given a lot of money to support this type of activity. Do you really support that? Is that the type of behavior you want your company to be known for? You vote every day with your dollars in America. Vote harder.
Yes, we do. Well, that's great. And Nick,
give me money instead. Send it to us instead. Become paid subscribers with us.
We need it. We've all got things rolling right now, so we're moving. All right, hey Lisa, you want to take us out with any final comments, and then I'll just close out the stream.
Yeah. Are you going to get the all the comments, because he always does the screenshot? One thing that Nick was talking about in terms of, like, people need to rise up. I saw a couple of comments in here, like, how are we going to do that? Like against ICE, whatever, what have you. My thing, because you guys already know, I always go back to the beginning and how we got screwed up in the first place. Having an informed citizenry is what would keep the government afraid of the people. And over the decades, that has eroded. So first step is this kind of stuff, the civics education, us networking with each other, talking with each other, learning how the government works, how all of this stuff, how we ended up here in order to dismantle it and to prevent it from going further. That is what I'm all about. That is the framework and the building block, the cornerstone, if you will, of anything to even be able to work.
So I challenge you then, Lisa, as someone who has been listening a lot about this and the missing creativity that there is in the pro-democracy space and the resistance and freedom fighters, because I refuse to use the word terrorist. I'm not a terrorist. I don't terrorize people unless information terrorizes you, and then good. Like, fuck off. Now you can be terrorized by information. That's one. It's like transphobia. Like, what are you afraid of, a person? Fuck off. Like, stupid. Anyway,
contagious? No.
I challenge you, Lisa, because I know you're a musician and I know you've got a band, is make a resistance song, is write an original resistance song, and I will post it all over my social medias. Is if you do, and we will blast it everywhere. I will blast it on. If you want to play things live, like Substack Live actually has a studio like camera version for like your audio, so it's a wider range. Or if you have a microphone set up, like, make a resistance song. We need someone to start, more than just bands like Dropkick Murphys. Like, they're amazing. They're amazing, but we need more. We need new artists coming out of the woodwork, even if you're not a young person, even if you're not in your 20s. If you're not, if you're any age, it doesn't matter.
Music is for everyone.
Put it out. And so I challenge you, Lisa, to write a resistance song.
I haven't written a song in a while.
And put it out there.
I haven't even thought about that, but that is, I am going to do that. I am going to start working on that.
Good. All right. Awesome. Well, and for everyone else, I challenge you in the audience before we go, is do some simple act that you find courageous today that makes you slightly uncomfortable in a good way, that builds community. Put yourself out there to build community, because that is what we need to do. That's where it starts.
It'll be the ripple effect. The more that you talk to everybody.
Butterfly effect.
Exactly. Exactly. And educate each other.
All right. Well, hey, thank you all, and thank you in the audience. Thanks, friends. We appreciate you having taking your time. Sorry, we're a little over. I'll give you your time there back now, and thank you, Nick and Lisa, so much for all of your contributions today. This has been great.
Thanks you guys. Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much for joining us again.
I appreciate it so much.
Yep.